Good morning, everyone. Online students, I hope I'm audible. वीर अभिराम प्रतीक आवाज आ रही है ना सबको? Good morning. Good morning. Right. So in our previous lecture, we were talking about Akbar, and last thing we had discussed were his revenue reforms or his revenue policy. क्या देखा था हमने? That Akbar governed over an extremely large and diverse empire, and thus there was no real possibility of introducing a uniform policy of revenue or land revenue assessment and collection throughout the empire. Therefore, there were multiple land revenue systems in operation in different parts of the empire. The first of them was Nask or Nasak. In this type of system, there was no system of survey and measurement, no system of estimation of revenue. Rather, the current year's collection was based on previous year's production, or sorry, collection. So whatever the amount had been collected the previous year, in accordance with the perceived improvement or reduction in productivity this year, the demand was adjusted, right? So एक guesstimate बनाया जाता था. The second system was Batai or Galla Bakshi. It was based on, or over here the revenue demand was based on the current year's production. It was based on the element of the division of the harvest, with one share being appropriated by the state and one share being left behind with the farmer. There were three kinds of batai: khet batai, in which standing crops were divided into two portions, one for the state, one for the farmer, before the crop was harvested. Second was lang batai or lang batai, where the crops were first harvested and then the stalks were bundled up, and those bundles were then divided, one portion going to the state, one portion going to the farmer. And third, we had ras batai, where the harvested crops were processed further by threshing them or beating them and by winnowing them. That means separating the grain from the chaff by allowing a current of wind to flow through it. तो उसमें से जो हल्का वाला chaff है वो अलग होकर के निकल जाता है. So division after threshing and winnowing the grain, right? So the threshed and winnowed grain was collected in the form of a mound, and the mound itself was divided into two portions, one going to the farmer, the second being appropriated by the state. Out of these three, which do you think was the best deal for the state? राज बटाई, क्यों? क्योंकि सारा काम ऑलरेडी फार्मर कर चुका है, एंड द बेस्ट डील फॉर द फार्मर वाज खेत बटाई, क्योंकि अब आधा उसको काम करना है, द रेस्ट द state is going to do, right? The third was the system introduced by shershah Suri, or the जब्ती सिस्टम. यहाँ पे रेवेन्यू का एस्टिमेशन किस बेसिस पे होता था? ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ प्रीवियस ईयर्स कलेक्शन और द प्रेजेंट ईयर्स एक्चुअल हार्वेस्ट, और ऑन सम अदर बेसिस? एक्चुअल हार्वेस्ट पे नहीं होता था. It was the assessment was done at the time of the crop sowing. ठीक है. So जो प्रोडक्शन का एस्टिमेट है उसके ऊपर बेस्ड होता था. So it was based on the system of survey and measurement, in which assessment was done at the time of sowing the crops by calculating the estimated production. Right? This resulted in the emergence of an estimated yield, और उस estimated production, sorry, estimated revenue को क्या बोलते थे? जमा. Now, is it necessary that whatever the state has estimated that actually it is going to be able to collect? No. So jama was the estimated revenue and hasil was the actual revenue. Had Shershah Suri introduced any safeguards to ensure that the gap between Jama and Hasil remains minimum? Yes. क्या किया था इसने? Division of land on the basis of soil fertility. Land was graded on the basis of fertility into how many categories? 3 categories: good, average and bad quality of land. And finally, क्या किया जाता था? The average estimated yield was calculated by applying the average yield of each of these 3 categories to the entire area, right? So the average yield was applied to the net sown area. Right? What were the problems associated with this? क्या लिमिटेशंस थे? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, इट did not account for the temporal variability of agriculture, right? Agricultural production may be high one year, low the next year, depending on a number of factors. कभी drought हो गया, कभी flood हो गया, कभी कोई pest लग गया, etc. Right? It also did not account for the frequency of cultivation. So, in the era of pre-industrial agriculture, when chemical fertilizers were not available, not all land was good enough to yield a crop every year. So, it would have to be left fallow for several years for the fertility to be allowed to recover. जो जब्ती सिस्टम था, यहाँ पर ये वाला जो शॉर्टकमिंग है, ये वाला जो वेरिएशन है, उसके लिए कोई अकाउंटेबिलिटी नहीं थी. Thirdly, while the tax was to be collected in cash form only, and Shershah Suri had prepared price lists for all the crops being sold in the market, problem kya tha? Those crops, those price lists also did not account for the regional, the spatial or temporal variability, the year by year fluctuation and the region by region fluctuation. उसके लिए कोई यहाँ पे बंदोबस्त नहीं था. There was no pricing mechanism which adjusted for the temporal and spatial variability of prices. To convert revenue demand from kind to cash. ठीक है? So while some efforts were made by Shershah Suri to reduce the gap between Jama and Hasil, a number of limitations remained. It is these limitations that Akbar's reforms are going to try and address. Okay. And it was in this context that Akbar introduced the Aine Dhasala system, also known as the Todermal Bandobast, since it was designed by Akbar's important revenue and financial advisor राजा टोडरमल. दह का मतलब होता है 10 and sala is year. So from the name itself, it is clear that this system was trying to address the temporal variability of both agricultural production as well as price fluctuations. ठीक है? कैसे था ये? First of all, it was also, or you can say, it was a modified version of Shershah's Zabti system. Like the Zabti system, it also had features such as the survey, measurement, and gradation of the land. It also resulted in the emergence of two types of figures, Jama and Hasil. While the survey and measurement of land was to be done by royal revenue officials, collection responsibility was with the traditional village headmen, the zamindars. The revenue assessment was carried out by royal revenue officials. The actual collection at the lowest level of the producer was done by the local zamindar. In order to protect the interests of the peasants, the state continued providing the peasants with legal protection such as patta and kabuliyat. शेर शाह सूरी ने इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, अकबर continued it. But apart from that, there were several other improvements. Further, you can write a high priority for the state was to minimize the gap between Jama and Hasil. And why was this important? Because this gap was responsible for fluctuation in revenue. This was important to stabilize the state's revenue income. And what was the importance of the state's revenue income? Land revenue was the basis of the state's bureaucratic efficiency. It was the basis for maintaining a large and effective centralized bureaucracy. It was also the basis for the state's military strength. And कल क्या देखा था हमने? That the Mughal Empire was a war state. It was dependent upon its military strength for its constant expansion as well as its survival. This was crucial since it was the basis of the state's military, of the state's military strength and bureaucratic efficiency. This was important from another perspective. और किसका फायदा होता अगर जमा एंड हासिल के बीच का फासला कम हो जाता, रेवेन्यू डिमांड स्टेबलाइज हो जाती. सो हु एल्स वुड हैव बेनिफिटेड? The persons who are at the other end of this equation, the peasants. क्या फायदा होता उनको? They would be paying their fair share of revenue, right? They would not be paying excessive revenue or lower revenue. So they would be able to plan their expenditure and investment better. So it would have prepared the stage for further expansion of land and capital creation at the producer level. Write down. This was also important for ensuring peasant welfare. This was also important for ensuring peasant welfare. If the estimation process was accurate, the farmers would be taxed at the optimum level, leading to greater satisfaction and hence lower possibility of. जब peasant satisfied होंगे तो बगावत करेंगे नहीं. Lower possibility of rebellion and higher general prosperity, which would allow not only for better investment planning and hence expansion of agriculture, but also raise demand, thus promoting secondary economic activities. समझ में आया ना ये? तो ये बेनिफिट्स मिलते if the state was able to find a way to reduce the gap between jama and hasil. Further right, for this the following reforms were introduced. Begin by writing number 1. land was to be graded firstly on the basis of frequency of cultivation and then subdivided on the basis of soil fertility. ठीक है? On the basis of frequency of cultivation, all the arable land was divided into how many categories? 3 categories. कौन कौन से? पोलज, परौती एंड छच्चर. राइट? पोलज का मतलब होता है फर्टाइल लैंड. दैट मीन्स land which is able to produce at least one crop every year. So it could be cultivated every year. Paroti land was inferior to Polaj land. It would have to be left fallow for 1 to 2 years to allow the soil fertility to rebound. Okay? So cultivated every or cultivated after a gap of 1 to 2 years. And Chachar land was the poorest quality of land which would have to be fallowed for 4 to 5 years. So there would be a gap of 4 to 5 years between two crops. ठीक है? And एक तो ये criteria हो गया frequency of cultivation. What is the second criteria? Soil fertility. So each of these 3 categories were to be further subdivided on the basis of soil fertility into 3 subcategories. क्या क्या? Good, middling or average and बैड लैंड. ठीक है? तो पोलज लैंड को इन 3 कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड किया जाएगा. परौती लैंड वुड बी डिवाइडेड इनटू दीज 3 कैटेगरीज. चाचर लैंड वुड बी फर्दर डिवाइडेड इनटू दीज 3 कैटेगरीज. ठीक है? रिजल्ट क्या होगा? हाउ मेनी टोटल सब कैटेगरीज? टोटल 9 सब कैटेगरीज वुड end up being created. Now, what was the purpose of creating these categories and subcategories of land? To calculate the averages. So, for example, if there is one particular parcel of land in a particular district of a Suba and it belongs to the Paroti category, okay? So, the average of the soil fertility yield, or average of the yield based on soil fertility would be applied to this piece of land. ठीक है? तो ऐसा नहीं होगा कि सारे के सारे 9 कैटेगरीज के एवरेजेस बना दिए, उसका तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं बचेगा, राइट? द पर्पस वाज सो दैट द this thing, the land could be divided into 3 categories on the basis of the frequency of cultivation, and वहां पे जो prevailing average है good, middle और bad land का, that should be applied at the time of revenue estimation, right? So further you can write number 2, to account for the temporal variability of production average yields were calculated for all subcategories over a period of 10 years, right? Now, this system was introduced in 1579. So, all these subcategories of land के लिए crop yields were calculated. Data was maintained for the previous 10 years from 1670 to 1679, right? तो यहाँ पे over the previous 10 years जो average yield है for each of these 9 subcategories of land that was cultivated, right? And what is the purpose of this? To account for temporal variability in production. So if let us say वही example लेते हैं, Parauti land है of middling quality, there are let us say 2 bumper years, right? Now केवल इन बम्पर ईयर्स के बेसिस पे अगर हम इस लैंड का सॉइल फर्टिलिटी जज करते, इसका क्रॉप यील्ड का एस्टिमेट लगाते, दैट वुड हैव बीन अनफेयर टू द फार्मर बिकॉज नॉट ऑल ईयर्स आर गोइंग टू बी दिस गुड. Within this 10-year period there may be several bad years also, right? So उसका एवरेज कर दोगे, so the favor is going to be tilted, the equation is going to be tilted in favor of the farmer, but this may disadvantage the state. Now some years will have average production, right? So a 10-year period was chosen to account for temporal variability in order to protect the interests of both the state as well as the farmer. ठीक है? Next, right? Number 3. Revenue was estimated at the time of sowing the crops by taking the 10-year average of yields, by taking the 10-year average of yields. Clear? Number 4. In what form was the revenue to be collected? Like the Zapti system, once again only in cash form. Revenue collection was to be done in cash only. शेरशाह सूरी ने क्या इंट्रोड्यूस किया था? A price chart, a price list for converting the kind demand into cash demand. What was it called? Shershah's ray, right? Problem kya tha? It was based on prices prevailing in Delhi only. Therefore, it did not account for regional variability. Secondly, only 1 year's prices had been taken into account, so it did not account for price fluctuations throughout various years, right? For Akbar system, he divided the empire into various price circles or dasturs, ठीक है, where the prices of various crops were by and large similar throughout the entire circle. ठीक है, तो इसमें बहुत ज्यादा रीजनल वेरिएशन नहीं था. नेक्स्ट राइट. फर्दर Akbar collected the prevailing prices of all crops sold in that circle over the previous 10 years. And for each crop, the 10-year price average was calculated to create one price list or several price lists. Several price lists. तो हर दस्तूर का, हर प्राइस सर्कल का अपना एक प्राइस लिस्ट होगा. To create several price lists known as दस्तूर अमल. In this way, Akbar's system accounted for both the regional as well as the temporal variation of crop prices. ठीक है. So these were the improvements made to Shershah Suri's Zabti system by Akbar. Further right. Further, Akbar took steps to encourage the expansion of agriculture as well. कैसे करेगा? Number 1, he began making extensive land grants known as Madad-e-Maash in unsettled or lightly settled regions where there was a lot of uncultivated land. तो इससे दो फायदे होंगे. First of all, the people who have been granted these Madad-e-Maash lands, it is in their interest to clear the land, prepare it for cultivation and begin tilling it, right? So it facilitated the expansion of agriculture by bringing new land under the plough for the first time. And secondly, the people who had been given Madad-e-Maash land, they have no links to that land. They are dependent upon the emperor to provide them protection, to give them their privileges. And these people are going to remain eternally loyal to the center. They were meant to act as a counterbalance against other neighboring regional elites, such as the locally entrenched zamindars, who were in a very intense competition against the state to maximize their share of the total revenue generated, total surplus generated. Okay? The grantees acted as a counterbalance against the local landed elites, that is zamindars, who were naturally resentful of central authority. So this was also a mechanism to centralize power, especially at the lower levels. ठीक है? तो एक तो ये काम किया अकबर ने by giving Madad-e-Maash lands. Second, Now, the Mughal Empire was also involved in a number of charitable purposes, charitable activities, including the granting of land to religious institutions and scholars. उसको वक्फ land बोलते थे. Akbar made a decree that from now on, all the land that is being distributed, at least 50% of that is going to be Banjar land. Banjar land क्या होता है? नहीं, फर्टाइल लैंड होता है लेकिन उस पर कल्टिवेशन नहीं होती है. इट इज अनकल्टिवेटेड एरेबल लैंड. ठीक है. अकबर also decreed that at least 50% of the Waqf donations shall be Banjar land. That is cultivable wasteland. और वेस्टलैंड को रिक्लेम करना होता है. राइट. कल्टिवेबल वेस्टलैंड. ओके. Thirdly, Akbar announced a 4 to 5 year tax break for any plot of land recently brought under the plow. क्या मतलब हुआ कि कोई भी एक पीस ऑफ लैंड था जहां पे कल्टीवेशन नहीं हो रहा था, दैट हैज रिसेंटली been cleared and prepared for cultivation by a farmer. No tax is going to be collected from it for a period of 4 to 5 years. ठीक है. Next, right. Akbar was also concerned about the farmers' welfare. Right? First of all, each farmer was allowed to claim as much as 1/8 or 12.5% of the total crop area as नाबूद लैंड. मतलब क्या होता है? अनप्रोडक्टिव लैंड. Which was exempt from taxation. Akbar realized that how so much ever he may want to check corruption at the lower levels, he will not be able to do that. And therefore, he allowed all peasants to claim that 1/8 of their land was नाबूद एंड जो बचा हुआ 7/8 है केवल वहीं से टैक्सेस कलेक्ट किए जाएंगे. तो करप्शन भी होगा तो कितना ही ज्यादा हो जाएगा. एंड अकबर फेल्ट दैट ही would save the peasants from at least this much exploitation, this much amount of tax they will be paying lesser. So he wanted to reduce the burden of taxation. What does it tell us? That Akbar realized the frailties of the revenue system and was also convinced that the peasants' happiness, the peasant satisfaction was the basis of production. He was also committed to the expansion and improvement of agriculture. Secondly, like Sher Shah Suri, Akbar adopted a prompt policy towards farmers in distress. Now, in order to reduce the burden of taxation, Akbar had done away with taxes such as the Zaribana and Muhasilana, etc., which were collected by शेर शाह सूरी. एंड 2.5 सेरी का जो प्रोविजन था वो भी खत्म कर दिया था, इमरजेंसी टैक्स था. However, Akbar made up for this by offering generous Sondhar loans to farmers in regions affected by war or other natural calamities. Clear है इतना? So these were the revenue reforms introduced by Akbar. एक क्वेश्चन लिख लें. Discuss the revenue reforms of Akbar. Full stop. To what degree were they based on Sher Shah Suri's Zabti system? $200 words, 15 marks. हो जाएगा. Discuss Akbar's revenue reforms. To what degree were they based on Sher Shah Suri's Zabti system? कर लेंगे. Online students, will you be able to address this? स्ट्रक्चर कैसे होना चाहिए? तो देखो, पहले आएगा आपका इंट्रो, After the intro, the features of the Aine Dahsala, followed by comparison with the Zabti system of Shershah Suri, where you will make your arguments in two stages. In the first stage, you are going to highlight the similarities between Akbar's Aine Dahsala and Shershah Suri's Zabti system. एंड उसके बेसिस पे यहाँ पे एक प्री कंक्लूजन करोगे दैट अकबर्स आईने दहशाला सिस्टम वाज अ डेरिवेटिव ऑफ जब्ती. तो यहाँ पे आप बोलोगे दैट यस इट वाज बेस्ड ऑन शेरशाह सूरीज जब्ती सिस्टम. बट अभी तक ये क्लियर नहीं हुआ है कि कितने डिग्री तक जब्ती सिस्टम का इमिटेशन था. सो देन यू विल हाईलाइट दी dissimilarities, and on the basis of that you will make your final conclusion. तो यहाँ पे आपने एक प्री कंक्लूजन किया है, यहाँ पे आप दूसरा प्री कंक्लूजन नहीं करोगे. यू विल मेक अ फाइनल कंक्लूजन. क्या बोलोगे? Thus, on the basis of this analysis, it is clear that while the Aine Dhasala system was not an original innovation, it was based on, or it was based on the foundations of Sher Shah's Zabti, but at the same time, it had a number of innovative modifications which made it much better qualitatively than the Zabti system. ठीक है? तो ना हम ये बोल सकते हैं इट वाज बेस्ड कंप्लीटली ऑन शेरशाह सूरीज जब्ती सिस्टम, ना हम ये बोल सकते हैं दैट इट वाज अ कंप्लीटली original innovation. Yes, it was based to a certain degree on the Zabti system, but it was qualitatively much better, and for that the credit has to be given to Akbar for introducing a number of innovative modifications and improvements to this system. Clear है? So that is the structure that we will follow. तो ये हो गया अकबर का रेवेन्यू पॉलिसी. नाउ लेट अस टॉक अबाउट दी मनसबदारी सिस्टम. पहले समझ लेते हैं, बाद में लिखवा दूंगा. तो क्या था ये मनसबदारी सिस्टम? द वर्ड मनसब is an Arabic word which means rank. So what do you think Mansabdari system was? A system of ranking. Ranking whom? The members of the Mughal civilian and bureaucratic civilian and military aristocracy. Now the Mansabdari system, इसका ओरिजिनल वर्जन इंट्रोड्यूस किया था मंगोल्स ने. चिंगिस खान had first introduced it. So the Mughal Mansabdari system was a modification of the Mongol system introduced by Genghis Khan. It was a system introduced by Akbar. For doing what? For organizing the Mughal aristocracy and bureaucracy into a merit-based hierarchy to create an instrument of royal centralization or royal despotism, within which the emperor alone would be at the top and all the important officials will owe their loyalty personally to the emperor. Thirdly, it was meant to provide efficient administration and it was to be the skeleton on which the military strength of the empire was to be founded. And finally, the Mansabdari system was to act as an integrative force where the diverse powerful elements present within the empire could be brought under the umbrella of Mughal suzerainty in a manner that conflict was minimized and cooperation was maximized between the center and these other peripheral groups. ठीक है, तो इस पर्पस से इंट्रोड्यूस किया था अकबर ने. What were the elements of the Mughal Mansabdari system? Each official was given two ranks. One known as the Zat rank, the other known as the Sawar rank. Now, the Zat rank stood for the officials' personal rank within the Mughal hierarchy, whereas Sawar rank stood for the military responsibility that that official was assigned. सवार का मतलब होता है घुड़सवार और horse rider. So this is the number of horsemen that that particular Mansabdar was supposed to maintain under his personal charge. Zat rank stood for the personal rank of the Mansabdar that decided his level of seniority within the entire Mughal hierarchy, the bureaucratic hierarchy, as well as his salary. जितनी ज्यादा जात रैंक होगा उतना उसका पर्सनल सैलरी होगा. जात रैंक पे डिपेंडेंट था सीनियरिटी एंड सैलरी. सवार रैंक पे डिपेंडेंट था नंबर ऑफ ट्रूप्स number of riders that a Mansabdar was supposed to maintain. Now, when Akbar introduced it, according to Abul Fazl, his court chronicler, the lowest theoretical rank was 10 Zat, 10 Sawar, and the highest theoretical rank was 5,000 Zat, 5,000 Sawar. There were a few individuals with ranks of 7,000 Zat or 10,000 Zat, but all of them were मुगल रॉयल प्रिंसेस. तो क्राउन प्रिंस वगैरह को, ऐसे लोगों को 5,000 से ज्यादा रैंक मिलेगा. जो भी नॉन रॉयल हाउस होल्ड से बिलोंग करते थे उनका मैक्सिमम रैंक 5,000 गात 5,000 सवार होता था. इतना क्लियर है? नाउ अकॉर्डिंग टू अबुल फजल, the ranks or the Mansabdari system consisted of a total 66 theoretical grades in units of 10. तो 10-10 है तो नेक्स्ट ग्रेड 20-20 हो सकता है, नेक्स्ट ग्रेड 30-30 और मे बी 50-50 हो सकता है. तो 66 थियोरेटिकल ग्रेड्स थे. कोई ऐसा नहीं है कि इंक्रीमेंट भी 10 के बेसिस पे होगा, उससे ज्यादा के बेसिस पे भी हो सकता है. However, in practice, only 33 actual grades existed. Is this clear? समझ में आया है? Further, according to Abul Fazl, there was also a mechanism wherein Mansabdars having the same Zat rank could also be ranked differently. ठीक है? So there was a system of subgradation within each grade of Mansabdar. So suppose there are 3 Mansabdars, each with rank Zat rank 5,000. Right? But one Mansabdar has a Zat rank, Sawar rank of 5,000. One Mansabdar has a Sawar rank of 3,000. And one Mansabdar has a Sawar rank of 2,000. तो जात रैंक तो तीनों का सेम है, पर्सनल सैलरी तीनों को सेम मिलेगा, लेकिन आउट ऑफ दीज 3 हु इज द सीनियर मोस्ट? 5,000 5,000 सवार वाला, उसके बाद 5,000 3,000 सवार वाला, 5,000 2,000 सवार वाला जूनियर मोस्ट होगा. बेसिस क्या था ये 3 रैंक्स बनाने का? द सीनियर मोस्ट Mansabdar was the one who had Sawar rank equal to Zat rank. So out of these 3, he was the senior most. The next was the one whose Sawar rank was less than the Zat rank. Sorry. Yeah. It was Sawar rank is less than or equal to half the Zat rank. Sorry. Sawar rank is more than at least half the Zat rank, more than or equal to half the Zat rank, but less than the Zat rank. तो Zat rank अगर मान लो 5,000 है तो उसका सवार रैंक 2,500 से ज्यादा होगा या फिर 5,000 से कम होगा, इस रेंज के बीच में होगा. एंड थर्ड was the one whose Sawar rank was less than of the Zat rank. ठीक है, हाँ, इकोनॉमिकली बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा, क्योंकि देखो अभी बताता हूं उनका सैलरी कैसे डिवाइड होता था, सैलरी कैसे मिलता था. These high ranking mansabdars were paid in the form of land revenue assignments known as जागीर्स. तो जागीर में एक पोर्शन जो होता था दैट वाज फॉर देयर पर्सनल सैलरी. तो यहां से जितनी भी क्रॉप्स यील्ड हो रही हैं they were supposed to go in the personal pocket of the Mansabdar, but the rest was supposed to be for military expenses. ये 5,000 3,000 या 2,000 राइडर्स मेंटेन करने के लिए यूज करते हैं. अब 5,000 वाले को ये पोर्शन बड़ा मिलेगा, 3,000 वाले को ये पोर्शन उससे छोटा और 2,000 वाले को सबसे छोटा मिलेगा. तो मे बी 2,000 वाले को टोटल जागीर जो है केवल इतनी ही दी जाए, राइट. So his personal rank is going to remain the same, but the Savar rank has been reduced, and thus the size of the Jagir also reduces. Clear? इतना समझ में आया है ना? जात और सवार रैंक. नेक्स्ट राइट, और सॉरी नेक्स्ट सुन लो. How were these mansabdars remunerated? It depended on their seniority. The lower ranked mansabdars were generally paid in the form of cash or nagad. So they were known as nagdi mansabdars, right? Generally nagdi mansabdars were mansabdars with zat rank of 500 or lower. Okay? However, the higher ranking mansabdars were paid in the form of land revenue assignments, जैसे हमने भी mention किया, known as jagirs. They were known as जागीरदार्स. नाउ जागीर्स भी अलग अलग कैटेगरीज की होती थी. तनख्वाह जागीर, वतन जागीर, अल तमगा जागीर एंड माशूद जागीर. तो तनख्वाह मतलब होता है सैलरी. दिस वाज द ऑर्डिनरी जागीर. इसका नेचर क्या होता था? इट वाज टेम्पररी, ट्रांसफरेबल और नॉन ट्रांसफरेबल. नॉन ट्रांसफरेबल मतलब नॉन सेलेबल. हेरिडिटरी और नॉन हेरिडिटरी? नॉन हेरिडिटरी. And finally, the Mansabdar was not assigned Tankha Jagir in the same area that he has been posted. So it was non-contemporaneous with the area of jurisdiction. Okay? This was a mechanism to ensure that decentralization does not take place in the hands of an ambitious Mansabdar who will, if given permanent Jagir, transferable Jagir, hereditary Jagir in the same area that he is governing, तो वो अपना एक सब स्टेट वहां से कार्व आउट कर सकता है टू प्रिवेंट दैट तनख्वाह जागीर्स पर गिवन. वतन जागीर्स were specifically given only to राजपूत्स. क्या होता है वतन जागीर? होमलैंड जागीर. सो if a Rajput ruler submitted before the Mughal emperor accepted his suzerainty, then his traditional territory will be categorized as Watan Jagir and reassigned to him, where he will be able to maintain complete internal autonomy. He would enjoy permanent rights of ownership over them. The Jagir would also be transferable. He would be free to divide it or sell it as he sees fit. These Jagirs would also be hereditary, passing from father to son, from generation to generation, and it would be located in the same area where that Rajput ruler was already ruling. So this was a measure to incorporate the Rajput states and their territory into the Mughal Empire without any friction. समझ में आया है? अल तमगा जागीर, तमगा मतलब क्या होता है? Medal, reward. So this was a Jagir that was assigned to persons, to individuals for exemplary service to the state, either on or off the battlefield. Okay? So these, like Watan Jagirs, were permanent and hereditary. They were also exempt from taxation. And Mashud Jagir, these were additional Jagirs. Given during wartime to commanders who were serving on the front. Additional wartime Jagir. Why do you think additional Jagirs की जरूरत पड़ती होगी? Because commanders who are serving on the front require more money, more men, more material, more resources, right? So to look out for their expenditure, some additional Jagirs had to be given to them. Clear है? तो ये हो गए different types of Jagir, and this was the basis for remuneration. The Mughal Mansabdari system was also quite heterogeneous. From the very beginning, there were a large number of different groups present within the Mughal aristocracy. For example, there were Turanis. Turanis were the Turkish-speaking people of foreign origin, like the Mughals. There were Iranis. These were foreigners from Persia, Persian speakers थे. There were Afghans. There were Sheikhzadas or Indian Muslimans. There were Rajputs, and later new groups became part of the Mughal Mansabdari, including the Deccanese. From the period of Akbar himself, the Mughals began encroaching into the Deccan region, and as new territory was incorporated within the Mughal Empire, the region's nobility was also incorporated into the Mansabdari. And during the reign of Aurangzeb, a large number of Marathas were also incorporated into the Mansabdari. So it was a heterogeneous system, not a homogeneous system. Now, do you think that this heterogeneity was deliberate or accidental? Accidental नहीं था, ये जानबूझ करके ऐसा बनाया गया था. Look, the Mughals came from this group, the Turanis. अब बलबन और ये क्या बोलते हैं लोदीज, दोनों ने पॉलिसी ऑफ एथनिक एक्सक्लूसिविज्म इंट्रोड्यूस किया था, राइट? दैट मींस पीपल ओनली फ्रॉम their group are going to be promoted. What was the result? Complete breakdown of authority, especially after the death of the founder. Bahlol Lodi के बाद, under Sikandar Lodi, his Afghan nobles began rebelling against him. They all started claiming that we are equal to the emperor because we come from the same stock. If the sultan is the rightful ruler, I also have as much right because I come from the same region. We share the same forefathers, the same blood is running through my veins. I'm even married to the empress sister or the empress daughter. So I should be the rightful king. Okay? Mughals wanted to avoid this. So that is why तुरानीज को उन्होंने इंट्रोड्यूस तो किया हायरार्की में, लेकिन फॉरएवर द तुरानीज वर sidelined. In place of them, Iranis were promoted. Iranis controlled the Afghans also. लेकिन अफगान्स के इंडिया में ट्रेडिशनल राइवल्स कौन थे? राजपूत्स. राजपूत्स के ट्रेडिशनल राइवल्स द अफगान्स एंड शेखजादास. एंड लेटर जो डेक्कनी स्टेट्स थे उनके कुछ नोबल्स को इनकॉर्पोरेट करके द मुगल्स ट्राइड टू गेन लेजिटिमेसी इन दैट रीजन. Similarly, the Marathas were incorporated under Aurangzeb because Aurangzeb was involved in a lengthy battle against Bijapur and Golconda, and Marathas provided the necessary manpower and strength. However, later on, Marathas became the biggest thorn in Aurangzeb's side, but by that point of time, there was very little he could have done. Clear hai? So, this heterogeneity was by design. It was not accidental. It was meant as a firewall, as a safety feature. Wherein one group is always going to counterbalance the influence of the other groups. So it provided the assurance of checks and balances. शेखजादास मुगल्स के पीरियड में तो आपने सैयद ब्रदर्स का नाम सुना होगा ना. तो ड्यूरिंग द रेन ऑफ बहादुर शाह जफर, सॉरी बहादुर शाह द फर्स्ट टू फारूक सियार, राइट. तो शेखजादास वर एक्टिंग एज किंग मेकर्स. सैयद ब्रदर्स भी शेखजादास थे. नेक्स्ट, another important element of the Mughal Mansabdari system was the Dah-Bishti system. Dah का मतलब होता है 10 and Bishti means 20. What was this system? That for every 10 horsemen, there should be at least 20 horses. So to ensure the cavalry remains an effective fighting unit, this ratio was important to maintain. So it was a mechanism to ensure battle readiness of the cavalry. And secondly, it was also a mechanism to assign ranks to different cavalry members, non-official cavalry members, जो recruits होते हैं, जो lower level के cavalry functionaries होते हैं, जो soldiers होते हैं, उनमें भी ranking करने के लिए. So a system to rank cavalry members or cavalry units. Now, the smallest Mughal horse rider company consisted of 10 members, 10 horse riders. They had to maintain a total of how many horses? 20 horses. Now, out of these, there were 3 more experienced horse riders who were given higher salary and thus would have to bear higher responsibility. They would have to maintain a total of 3 horses each. कितने हुए इनके horses? 3 into 3? 9 हो गए. Further, there were 4 horsemen of intermediate rank, जिनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी थोड़ी कम होंगी क्योंकि उनकी सैलरी थोड़ी कम है, उनका एक्सपर्टीज थोड़ा कम है. इंस्टेड ऑफ 3 दे वुड हैव टू मेंटेन 2 horses each. कितने हुए horses? 8, राइट. और लास्ट रैंक के 3 नए रिक्रूट्स होंगे जिनकी सैलरी भी सबसे कम होगी, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी भी सबसे कम होगी. दे वुड हैव टू मेंटेन ओनली देयर ओन पर्सनल हॉर्स, 1 horse each. टोटल कितने हुए? 3. 8 plus 9 plus 3, 20. 3 plus 4 plus 3, 10. 10, 20, the bestie. ठीक है. So this ensured 2 things, that every company of 10 horse riders would have an additional mount, an additional horse. ठीक है. तो कि एक अगर बीमार पड़ जाए, मर जाए, चोट लग जाए, घायल हो जाए, तो रिप्लेसमेंट माउंट है. एंड सेकेंडली यहाँ पे ऑर्डर मेंटेन करने के लिए, डिसिप्लिन मेंटेन करने के लिए रैंकिंग सिस्टम भी जरूरी, राइट. सो दैट इज व्हाट दिस दाल-बेस्टी सिस्टम ensured. Clear? Now, one of the important aspects of the Mansabdari system was to ensure administrative centralization, royal despotism. और वो कैसे मेंटेन होता था? With the establishment of a functional link between the emperor and Mansabdar. ठीक है. Now look, all Mansabdars were also military officials, right? And therefore, their immediate superior or their topmost superior was the head of the military department. कौन होता था head of the military department? The Mir Bakshi. So Mir Bakshi was the leader of the Mughal Mansabdari. ठीक है. However, all of appointments of an individual as Mansabdar were done personally by the emperor. So after a personal interview with the emperor only, the official was granted a Mansab rank. After a personal interview with the emperor, the Mansabdar was granted a Jagir. After a personal interview with the emperor, the Mansabdar was granted a promotion. After a personal interview with the emperor, the Mansabdar was granted a new posting. ठीक है. So appointments, postings, transfers, promotions and assignment of Jagirs were done by the emperor personally. ठीक है. In these important tasks, Mir Bakshi was sidelined. He did not play a major role. Final order, although वही sign करता था, but only after the emperor had given his go ahead, right? And what did this ensure? कि जो मनसबदारी है, who are they going to consider their real chief? The Mir Bakshi or the emperor? Emperor, right? And this ensured personal loyalty of the Mansabdars not to their ethnic group or to the Mir Bakshi, but to the emperor only. And since the emperor controlled all the largesse of the state, all the promotions, postings, and jagirs, it also provided a mechanism for the emperor to reward loyal service and punish disloyalty or poor service. Right? Kaise? It established a reciprocal relationship between the emperor and Mansabdar. Right? However, one thing that was necessary for the success of the Mansabdari system was that this functional link characterized by this reciprocal relationship should remain intact. And वो किस पे based होगा? On the emperor's ability to keep rewarding loyal service and keep punishing disloyal service. And that itself would be dependent on two factors. One would be the personality of the emperor himself. If the emperor is able to inspire awe, is able to inspire respect, there would be a natural tendency for the Mansabdars to defer to him, to remain loyal to him, not to anger him. And secondly, मनसबदार्स का बिगेस्ट फॉर्म ऑफ रिवॉर्ड क्या है? Jagirs. So there should be sufficient quantity of Jagirs available to be distributed amongst the Mansabdars, right? And जैसे जैसे एम्पायर ग्रो करेगा वैसे वैसे और जागीर्स बढ़ती जाएंगी. But as the empire continues to grow in size, what else is going to happen? A large number of new Mansabdars will have to be incorporated within the empire, right? And ensure क्या करना है? That the number of Jagirs, the availability of Jagirs is growing at a faster pace than the number of Jagirdars. ठीक है? Now, this is what leads to evolution of the Mansabdari system later on. Do aspa see aspa system. This was a major modification in the Mansabdari system introduced by Jahangir, right? अब हो क्या रहा था? That although the size of the Mughal Empire was rising, however, the rate at which it was growing had slowed down. In contrast, the rate at which new Mansabdars were being incorporated into the empire, that was growing too much. So the demand for Jagirs was increasing. And demand को fulfill करने के लिए empress ने क्या करना शुरू किया? जो ranks थे ना Mansabdars के, which earlier were limited to 5,000 5,000 अवर, इनको इन्फ्लेट करना शुरू कर दिया. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम क्या था कि इतने एक्सपेंडिचर को जस्टिफाई करने के लिए देयर वाज नॉट सफिशिएंट लैंड अवेलेबल. सो देयरफॉर द प्रॉब्लम ऑफ शॉर्टेज ऑफ जागीर्स स्टार्टेड टू टेक प्लेस. टू contextualize this, Abul Fazl mentions that 500 जात से ऊपर वाले मनसबदार ड्यूरिंग अकबर्स रेन वर ओनली 1000. टोटल साइज ऑफ द मनसबदारी ड्यूरिंग अकबर्स रेन, मतलब लोएस्ट से हाईएस्ट रैंक्स के ऑफिशियल्स थे टोटल मनसबदारी, दैट वाज ओनली 5000 मनसबदार्स. बाय द टाइम ऑफ शाहजहां, the total number of Mansabdars had increased to 14,000, and 5,000 Mansabdar, 500 Mansabdar वाले रैंक का नंबर more than 5,000 हो चुका था. Earlier, the Mansabdars were being given a maximum rank of 5,000 or 5,000 sawar. From Shah Jahan's period or during Shah Jahan's period, they were being given ranks as high as 40,000 or 40,000 sawar. Okay? So there was a growing shortage of Jagirs. By Aurangzeb's period, this shortage of Jagirs became a real crisis and to a certain extent contributed to the decline of the Mughal Empire. But ये जो crisis है, that took a long period to evolve, and different emperors, including Jahangir, made their own attempts to resolve this crisis. तो जहांगीर ने एक सिस्टम इंट्रोड्यूस किया known as the दुअस्पा सीअस्पा सिस्टम. दू का मतलब होता है 2, C is 3. Aspa is the Persian version of the Sanskrit word Ashwa. Ashwa matlab horse. So this is the 2 horse, 3 horse system. यहां पे होता क्या था? See, while Jahangir wanted to increase the size of the army, लेकिन size of the army को increase करने के लिए क्या जरूरी होगा? To increase the amount of Jagirs that is being assigned to the Mansabdar. And Jagir बढ़ाने पे क्या होगा? जात रैंक भी बढ़ानी पड़ेगी. So Jahangir wanted a solution wherein the personal rank he would not have to increase, जात rank he would not have to increase, but military responsibilities increase कर दे. वो जो theoretical limitations थे ना कि जितना जात रैंक है उससे ज्यादा सवार रैंक नहीं हो सकता, he wanted to breach that. अगर जात रैंक 5,000 है, so he wanted the Mansabdars to maintain as many as 15,000 horse riders under. So how to do that? Additional ranks of Duaspa or Cspa were assigned to different Mansabdars. Now suppose there is a 5,000 Mansabdar. What should be the theoretical limit of his Sawar rank? 5,000. But he has been assigned an additional rank of Duaspa. That means his Zat rank would remain 5,000, but his Sawar responsibilities are going to be increased by a factor of 2. तो सवार रैंक इसका प्रैक्टिकली कितना हो जाएगा? 10,000, लेकिन नाम के लिए वही 5,000 ही मनसबदार रहेगा ये, राइट? What is going to be the result of this? The personal salary of this Mansabdar, is it also going to increase? No, it has remained the same. However, his military expenditure, is it also going to remain the same? No, that is going to increase. It is going to increase by a factor of 2, double हो जाएगा. Now, ideally, what should be the solution for this? Suppose earlier a 5,000 Mansabdar was being assigned this much as his Zat Jagir and this much as his Sawar Jagir. इसको अब कितना हो जाना चाहिए? Into 2 हो जाना चाहिए, इसका साइज दुगना हो जाना चाहिए. बट यही तो नहीं है मनसब एम्परर के पास. The emperor does not have any additional Jagirs to give, and therefore rather than increasing the size of the Sawar Jagir by 2, what is he going to do? He is going to assign the same size of Jagir, but जो additional expenditure है, that is going to be met by the state in the form of a additional cash allowance. ठीक है? So what has this allowed the emperor to do? it has allowed the emperor to increase the strength of the military while keeping the ranks of the Mansabdars stable and also preventing the introduction of new Mansabdars of a high rank, right? क्योंकि अगर दूसरा सोल्यूशन क्या होता कि आप एक मनसबदार की जगह दो मनसबदार लो, आपको 10,000 घुड़सवार चाहिए तो दो मनसबदार 5,000 वाले लेके आओ, राइट? सो दैट वाज अवॉइडेड. इज दिस मच क्लियर? ये हो गया दो अस्पा सी अस्पा सिस्टम. सिमिलरली अगर उसको सी अस्पा रैंक दिया होता तो इंटू 3 हो जाता, ये इंटू 3 हो जाता, and the size of the cash allowance would also have increased. Clear? So this was the do aspa see aspa system. However, this was not a permanent solution. The situation continued to deteriorate, and finally Shah Jahan had to introduce the monthly scale to address the emerging crisis. क्या होता है monthly scale? Once again, problem वही है. There is growing shortage of jagirs. Number of mansabdars is increasing. This number of available jagirs is remaining constant, more or less. ठीक है? And therefore, to accommodate the various mansabdars and satisfy them at least to a certain degree, Shah Jahan began assigning monthly scales to all mansabdars. So some mansabdars were given a 3-month scale, some mansabdars were given a 6-month scale, some mansabdars were given a 9-month scale, some mansabdars were given a 12-month scale. मतलब क्या होगा इसका? The size of the jagir is going to be adjusted in accordance with the basis of this scale, and so is the number of horsemen, so is their military responsibility. Let us say 5,000 mansabdar is supposed to receive this much land as his jagir. Now he has been assigned an additional monthly scale of 6 months. So Shah Masa 5,000 mansabdar bana diya gaya usko, right? Now while his personal salary is going to remain constant, इसमें कोई change नहीं किया जाएगा, but from now on he is expected to maintain 5,000 horse riders for only 6 months of the year. तो ऐसा नहीं होगा कि 6 महीने ये रखेगा और 6 महीने के बाद भगा देगा. This accounts for 1/2 of the total year. तो यहाँ पे the number of horse riders that he has to maintain is going to be accordingly adjusted. ठीक है? And thus the size of the jagir can also be adjusted. Instead of assigning him the full jagir, केवल इतना जागीर असाइन किया जाएगा. ठीक? Now what if he was assigned a monthly scale of 12? Then fraction would be 1/1. So he would be assigned the full jagir. What if he was assigned the monthly scale of 9? Fraction क्या होगा? 9/12, 3/4. तो जो सवार जागीर है that is going to be reduced by a factor of 1/4, right? तो अब केवल उसको इतना जागीर मिलेगा. Is this clear? So this was the monthly scale introduced by Shah Jahan. Do you think this was a permanent solution to the emerging crisis? नहीं. Basic problem क्या था? The size of the empire was not increasing at the same rate as the number of jagirdars. ठीक है? Further, by the time of Aurangzeb, the distribution of jagirs was also very, very unequal. There were a few prominent noble houses who were controlling the bulk of the good quality jagirs. By Aurangzeb, by Shah Jahan's period itself, the ratio was somewhat like this, that 16% of the Mansabdars controlled as many as 61% of the टोटल जागीर्स. तो बाकी बचे हुए 84% के लिए केवल 39% जागीर्स बची हुई हैं. What is going to be the result? A great degree of competition. And when mansabdars are assigned a particular jagir, they are not certain कि हमें कितने समय के लिए मिला हुआ है. So what are they going to do? They are going to charge taxing the peasants excessively. So this is going to result in agrarian distress also. Peasant revolts भी होंगे, military expenditure और बढ़ेगा. Therefore mansabdari का जो expenditure है वो और ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, and the unequal division is going to become even more pronounced. And this finally led to the collapse of the Mughal administration, the Mughal mansabdari system. तो ये है mansabdari system. Would it be correct to conclude that the Mansabdari system played an important role in both the creation, consolidation of the empire and also its decline? ठीक है. So give the heading Mansabdari system and we can start writing. लिखो. This system was originally introduced by Chinggis Khan and was modified for Indian conditions by Akbar. For Indian conditions by Akbar. Full stop. Its objectives were as follows. 1 2 3 4 करके लिख लो. Number 1, organizing the Mughal aristocracy and bureaucracy. Mughal aristocracy and bureaucracy into a merit-based hierarchy. Number 2, providing the basis for royal absolutism. Number 3, creating a mechanism to ensure efficient administration. Number 4, preparing the foundations for a strong military establishment. And number 5, creating a structure to integrate the diverse Indian elite under Mughal authority. क्या है? Creating an integrative structure. क्या लिखा? Creating a structure to integrate the diverse Indian elite under Mughal authority. ठीक है. तो ये हो गए ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. नेक्स्ट सब हेडिंग दो, फीचर्स ऑफ द मनसबदारी सिस्टम, फीचर्स ऑफ द मनसबदारी सिस्टम. राइट डाउन. नंबर 1, डुअल रैंक. लिखो, ईच मनसबदार within bracket rank holder was assigned two separate ranks. A, B. A, Zat rank. It denoted the personal rank of the Mansabdar. The personal rank of the Mansabdar varying from 10 to 5,000. Varying from 10th to 5,000 and determined his seniority and salary. दूसरा determined, हाँ, his seniority and salary. तो दूसरा वाला सवार रैंक. It represented the military responsibilities of the Mansabdar in terms of the number of horsemen they had to maintain. ठीक है, ये पहले फीचर में ही चल रहा है सब कुछ. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिखो, ए बी हुआ ना, बी सी मत लिखना. नेक्स्ट मेन पॉइंट पहले वाले फीचर में. अकॉर्डिंग टू अबुल फजल, comma, there were 66 theoretical grades of Mansabdars arranged in multiples of 10. But in practice, only 33 actual grades existed. ठीक है, नेक्स्ट पॉइंट लिखो, each mansab rank had 3 subgrades. One, two, and 3. Number 1, Sawar rank equals to Zat rank. Hyphen senior most. Number 2, Sawar rank less than or equal to half the Zat rank, but more than equal to or half the Zat rank, but less than the Zat rank. And number 3, Sawar rank less than half the Zat rank. Sawar rank less than half the Zat rank. तो पहले वाले के बाद में सीनियर मोस्ट लिखा था, दूसरे वाले के बाद में लिखो इंटरमीडिएट रैंक, एंड लास्ट वाले में जूनियर मोस्ट. Can give these 3 examples also. ठीक है, एक एलिमेंट हो गया ये डुअल रैंकिंग का. इज दिस क्लियर? एक पॉइंट और लिख सकते हो इसमें. दिस एलिमेंट ऑफ डुअल रैंकिंग was a reflection of the Mughal Empire functioning as a war state. In our last class we had discussed ना, the Mughal Empire was a war state जहाँ पे civilian और military officials में कोई distinction नहीं था. Military officials perform civil duties and civilian officials were also expected to maintain a minimum number of troops, right? This was important to maintain the military strength of the empire. So that is what this reflects, dual ranking. Next element, salary or remuneration. Write down. Mansabdars could either be paid in cash Mansabdars could either be paid in cash or kind. Sub point लिखो. Or next point, next main point. There were 2 kinds of Mansabdars. There were 2 kinds of Mansabdars. Nakdi, A. Nakdi of lower rank, paid in cash, and B. Jagirdars who were senior and paid in the form of Jagirs or land revenue assignments. ठीक है, paid in the form of Jagirs or land revenue assignments. Next main point लिखो. There were 4 different kinds of Jagirs. Kinds of Jagirs. A, B, C, D करके. A, तनख्वाह जागीर. It was a non-hereditary, non-transferable Jagir situated away from the Mansabdar's area of jurisdiction. Situated away from the Mansabdar's area of jurisdiction. ठीक है. B, वतन जागीर्स assigned only to Rajputs. Full stop. These were hereditary and transferable. And coincided with the Rajput rulers' original territory. See, Al-Tamgha Jagirs. Put down. Permanent tax-free grants given to individuals for exemplary service to the state. Given to individuals for exemplary service. And D, Mashrut Jagirs. Mashrut, Mashrut. Mashrut Jagirs. These were additional Jagirs assigned to commanders on the front lines during war. Okay? Next, right. Number 3. Since the beginning, comma, the Mughal Mansabdari system was highly diverse, consisting of various ethnicities, nationalities, religious groups, and linguistic identities. Full stop. Subpoint. It was both a reflection of the pluralistic nature of the Mughal Empire, and a safety measure to ensure checks and balances against the emergence of a single dominant aristocracy that could challenge the emperor. नेक्स्ट लिखो, नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. The Mansabdari consisted of several groups such as, one by one you can write these: Duranis, Iranis, Afghans, Shekhzadas, Rajputs, Deccanis and Marathas. So, what was the criteria for membership? मनसबदार किस बेसिस पे चूज किए जाते थे, प्रमोट किए जाते थे? हमने शुरू में क्या देखा था? इट वाज अ मेरिट बेस्ड सिस्टम. ठीक है, तो एक क्राइटेरिया तो मेरिट था, बट वाज इट द ओनली क्राइटेरिया और वाज इट इवन द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वन? डू यू थिंक? मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट ये नहीं था. हाँ, merit was taken into account, but the Mansabdari system after all was a political tool for the rulers to align the interests of the ruling elite of India, the regional ruling elite of India, with the interests of the imperial household, with the interests of the emperor. Therefore, apart from merit, more important criteria was that you belong to the correct family, correct clan lineage, करेक्ट ग्रुप से आप बिलोंग कर रहे हो, विच एंजॉयज अ सर्टेन अमाउंट ऑफ पावर, रुतबा है अपने अपने इलाके में. तभी ना द एम्परर्स वुड बी एबल टू और वुड वांट टू इनकॉर्पोरेट यू इनटू द मनसबदारी, reward you for remaining loyal to him. Otherwise, if you don't come from a powerful background, there is no use for it. ठीक है, सो राइट डाउन. while while हाँ, इसी में ही नंबर कौन सा है? थर्ड. while nationality or ethnicity was no bar for membership, and merit, no bar to membership and merit was taken into account while making assignments and promotions, while making appointments and promotions, comma, family or clan lineage was the most important criteria. Family or clan lineage was the most important criteria. Full stop. Sub point. Mansabdari appointments, especially at the higher scale or especially at the upper levels, what were they? They were an act of political compromise. ठीक है, तो write down were an act of political compromise made to align the imperial interests with the interests of the ruling elite. With the interests of the ruling elite. ठीक है, तो ये हो गया heterogeneous nature of the nobility and criteria for appointments. Next, number 4 लिखो, Dictation system. The Bishti system. The Bishti system. Write down. It was introduced by Akbar as a mechanism to ensure battle readiness of the cavalry, as a mechanism to ensure battle readiness of the cavalry and to introduce battle readiness of the cavalry and to introduce order and discipline among ordinary soldiers. Among ordinary soldiers. Full stop. Next point. The smallest Mughal cavalry company consisting of 10 soldiers was required to maintain 20 horses. In accordance with the following arrangement. In accordance with the following arrangement. ये टेबल आप कर सकते हो. ठीक है, तो ये हो गया द बिश्ती सिस्टम. What did it ensure? That every rider would have theoretically at least one additional mount while riding into battle, and secondly, it ensured discipline within the company, rank order within the company. Next, right, number 5, the Mansabdari system. The Mansabdari system also linked the Mughal aristocracy in personal bonds of loyalty to the emperor. To the emperor. Full stop. The point लिखो. While the Mir Bakshi was the theoretical leader of the aristocracy of the Mansabdari, was the theoretical leader of the Mansabdari, comma, all appointments, transfers, promotions, and Jagir assignments were done personally by the emperor. Were done personally by the emperor. Full stop. Next point. Therefore, a reciprocal relationship emerged between the emperors and their nobles based on mutual benefit. Based on mutual benefit. Number 6, right? The Mansabdari system evolved constantly. Evolved constantly. Evolved constantly in response to emerging pressures and opportunities. Emerging pressures and opportunities. Subpoint. One problem which began emerging after Akbar's reign was the shortage of Jagirs. Was the shortage of Jagirs. Full stop. To address this, A and B. A, Jahangir introduced the Duvaspa Siaspa system. Jahangir introduced the Duvaspa Siaspa system. And B, Shah Jahan introduced the monthly scale. लिखो A, Duvaspa Siaspa or 2 horse 3 horse. Duvaspa Siaspa or 2 horse 3 horse system. क्या होता था इसमें? राइट डाउन. Mansabdars were given additional military responsibility without increasing their Zat rank. Without increasing their Zat rank. Full stop. The additional military expenditure was covered through cash allowances or cash allotments. ठीक है? So this was the Duvaspa Siaspa system. B, monthly scale. Mansabdars इनफैक्ट ऐसे मत लिखो, ऐसे लिखो कि military responsibilities of Mansabdars were reduced in accordance with the monthly scale assigned to them, and thus the size of Jagirs allotted to them were also reduced. To them were also reduced. ठीक है? So this was the monthly scale. Next point लिखो. However, these measures could not provide a comprehensive solution, and the shortage of jagirs could not provide a comprehensive solution, and the shortage of jagirs assumed crisis proportions during Aurangzeb's reign. Full stop. This is believed to be one of the factors responsible for the Mughal decline. Couple of questions, write down. Number 1, discuss the features and significance of the Mughal Mansabdari system. $15 marks. ठीक है? And second, throw light on the changing composition of the Mughal aristocracy under successive emperors. Full stop. $15 marks. ठीक है? तो पहले वाला तो आई एम श्योर यू विल बी एबल टू एड्रेस, आसानी से कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी. फीचर्स आपको बताने हैं सबसे पहले, फिर उसके बाद सिग्निफिकेंस की बात करनी है. सिग्निफिकेंस में क्या, जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं कि हाउ द फीचर्स ऑफ द मुगल मनसबदारी सिस्टम हेल्प्ड द एम्परर टू फुलफिल दोज ऑब्जेक्टिव्स, वो आपको बताने पड़ेंगे सारे ऑब्जेक्टिव्स. And finally, you will also have to shed light on the fact that the Mansabdari Jagirdari crisis ultimately led to the decline of the empire also. तो both rise और decline का में मनसबदारी सिस्टम ने इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले किया, एंड दैट इज द नोट ऑन व्हिच वी विल बी कंक्लूडिंग द आंसर. ये वाला जो है, थ्रो लाइट ऑन चेंजिंग कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ द मुगल मनसबदारी सिस्टम, मुगल अरिस्टोक्रेसी अंडर वेरियस एम्परर्स. फॉर दैट वी नीड एक्स्ट्रा इंफॉर्मेशन, एंड ये हम कल की क्लास में कवर करेंगे. दिस इज द फर्स्ट टॉपिक दैट विल बी कवरिंग कि अंडर अकबर ईरानीज का परसेंटेज कितना था, तुरानीज का परसेंटेज कितना था, कितने राजपूत इंट्रोड्यूस किए गए, क्यों इंट्रोड्यूस किए गए, जहांगीर के पीरियड में क्या चेंजेस आए, राइट, हाउ डिड ही ट्रीट द राजपूत्स, क्या डिफरेंसेस थे, क्या सेम थिंग्स थी, राइट, शाहजहां एंड देन औरंगजेब, राइट. तो इन 4 एम्परर्स का हम करियर कंसिडर करेंगे टू डिस्कस दी चेंजिंग कॉम्पोजिशन. क्लियर? तो दैट इज इट फॉर टुडे. आई होप समझ में आया है सब. थोड़ा टेक्निकल था आज का लेक्चर, लेकिन समझ में आया है ना? चलो गुड. ऑनलाइन स्टूडेंट्स, अभिराम, इज एवरीथिंग क्लियर? All right. Thank you all. चलिए then. Thank you for your time. I'll see you guys tomorrow.